Order. That concludes questions for oral answer. Would some honourable member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business?
Oh, sorry. Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, on Sunday there is a final of the World Cricket Cup match, and the Black Caps will make history, and we in New Zealand will all be rightfully proud of that performance. But, Mr. Speaker, the curtain raiser for that match will be played on Saturday, and it'll be played in Northland. And it'll be played as the Northland by-election in an electorate that has been held by National for over 77 years. And that too will produce a result that will be historical. Last week, Mr. Speaker, I spoke in the House and I warned this government that rural provincial New Zealand has woken up to the fact that they have been taken for granted by National for too long, that they have been forgotten, and that they are becoming increasingly of the view that it's time to send this arrogant government a message. A message. And indeed, the very next day that I warned long-time supporters and card-carrying members of the National Party in rural provincial New Zealand were angry at the cuts to funding assistance for rural roads, at the cuts that are coming through the One Road network, through the forced amalgamation of rural provincial New Zealand into super cities. The very next day, on the front page of the Dominion Post, out came Sir Brian Lahore. And his message, very poignant, very clear, very fundamental to the National Party, is that had enough. Had enough. In fact, the message was so profound and so clear that the same day at a meeting in Wellington of regional councils, that is the district councils, CEOs, the CEO of Wellington said, "God has spoken." But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the only people who aren't hearing the message are this national government. So on Saturday, a very clear message is going to come, because the force of the North will enable Northlanders to send that message. And let's be clear, these are not card-carrying members of the New Zealand First Party. They are not card-carrying members of the Labour Party. They are National Party people. And we know that this message is very clear, Jerry, Mr. Brownlee, the Honourable Mr. Brownlee. We know it's very clear because Christchurch MPs have been sent up to Northland to help pull the hoardings down because the campaign has imploded, hasn't it? It's imploded. So what has happened up there? Oh, I know one of the things that's happened is the National Government said Winston Peters had zero chance of winning. That were their words. John Key said that. The National Party was so arrogant, they said, "We got 16,000 votes. We can't possibly lose this." Arrogance. Arrogance at its best, supported by simple Simon Bridges over troubled waters policy.
Order. Order. The member will use the proper terminology referring to members in this House.
There we go. There we go. So what does it mean? It means that in the 77 years, people have woken up to the fact that the lowest median income in New Zealand is in Northland. That there are over 800 one-way bridges, Mr. Bridges. 800, not 10. That there's 1,100 kilometres of unsealed roads in Kaipara. 70% of the roads in the far north are unsealed. A rail line so bad that it takes 5 hours to shift goods from south to Auckland. Forget 4G, because most people up there can't get cell phone coverage. Just like Greytown, actually, by the way. Try and get cell phone coverage in Greytown. A place where the indicators that ought to be good are down and the indicators that are bad are up. This is a place which, after 77 years of National Party representation, has its indicators upside down. And the promises, well, they have flooded out of Wellington since the by-election, since Winston Peters entered the race. What this party isn't going to do with new roads, new bridges, broadband, well, heck, it's only because Stephen Joyce hasn't had time to rewrite the policy and put it out there. And what else have they learned? They've learned that they've got a candidate that actually the National Party people didn't want. They preferred a farmer. They learned that they've got a candidate for one of his greatest attributes is he can lift heavy things. He can lift heavy things. All these are billboards that have appeared all over the place, billboards with Hoss Cartwright on. You know, and we know what that message says. Look, he's a lovely boy and he's a gentle giant, but he ain't particularly bright. And why do we know that he's not particularly bright?
The member's time has expired. The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Just Speaker, if there's any cricket analogy that does make sense, is that Winston is